Testing, 1, 2, 3. Earth to Athletes. Fantastic.
So I'm not sure, you've done one podcast before.
Have I done?
Was it the Fight
2.
and Fit?
I did Fight Fit, and I did another one for a some medical group. Actually, done 3. I've done one for a medical group in Murrelbark somewhere, I think it was. And then in Knox, I did one for a Jim Swift, somebody or other. So I've done a few.
Because I watched what sounded like your very first, and you're all pumped, and
yes, well,
it was a bit of, here we go. What's this about?
He's on drugs.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that would have been for Fight Fit.
I think that was.
Yeah, I reckon it was.
You're sitting on a couch and you were leaning over and talking about your
talking
fight.
to Jake.
Yeah.
Yes, talking
That's
about my
the one.
first ever preparation for my first ever fight, which I was really disappointed about because,
What happened with that?
well,
I didn't read a whole lot. You were all pumped. We had a chat about it.
I was
and
all set to
surprised.
go. But because I was the oldest there by like 25 years or something, there weren't a lot of opponents. And there was one other guy that was probably 15 years younger than me who was going to be my opponent. He tore his bicep off the bone in the week before the fight, which didn't worry me because I was happy to fight him with just one arm. Him with one arm, not me.
Yeah.
I thought I was half a chance then. So I didn't have an opponent. So I wasn't able to fight. So I was quite spewy about that.
Were they trying to find a replacement for that?
Yeah.
Or was it a bit of a far too late notice on 4 days' notice, even though...
Yeah, it was just too difficult. And they try to make it reasonable. They try and find someone who's similar sort of skills, and there's not that many that bad out there. There was a couple of 12-year-old girls who were a chance. I was trying to convince them, but
no one would go for that.
no one would go.
No
for
one
that.
would go for that.
Well, they thought I was easy. They thought they could smack me home. But so that was a disappointment. But I enjoyed the process of challenging myself to get completely outside my comfort zone and have a crack at something. And I've always been like that through my whole life. You got to have a crack. And if you're not challenging yourself, life's pretty boring, I reckon. You've got to have some excitement, and it gives you a reason to focus, gives you a reason to train, gives you a reason to assess where you're at, what you're doing, is what I'm doing working, all of that. And I do that on a daily basis for other people, for clients and stuff. So it's kind of nice to be selfish and do it for myself. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I have to do when I'm coaching and training people and working with groups is to convince them that being a little bit selfish is not evil.
It's not.
It's not. Because what I see when I go to every organisation, every group, every team, as people progress through their working life, their requests from friends, family, workplaces, you name it, it never goes backwards. It always increases. Your family, your workplace, your community, wherever you are, they want more and more from you. I see it in workplaces all the time. You go into...
I'm sure you would, yes.
Go into wherever it is, ANZ Bank, wherever it is, this young kid comes in, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and he's all enthusiastic. Yeah, what do I do? And then the boss says, here, mate, I want you to do this, this, and this. And away they go. And as soon as you do a really good job, they go, well, that was great. Now I want you to do a little bit more. And before you know it, you're taking on more and more responsibility. And that's all good until then you start to have, family, cats, dogs, communities, you're coaching the little league team, you're doing this. And then all of a sudden, the amount of commitments that you have become overwhelming. And so suddenly I see them when they're in a rehab program or something like that where it slowly snuck up on them, those extra 5 kilos or those extra, whatever it is, because they got home at the end of the day exhausted from doing everybody else's stuff.
And don't have time for themselves.
Yeah, and that's fine for a little while. But once it starts to become a habit, then you're in trouble. And what I see is usually it's around when you put on about 5 kilos, that's when things start to change. Because if I gave you a 5 kilo bag of potatoes and you had to drag it around with you all day for 7 days a week, by the end of the month, you're taking shortcuts. You're driving the car as close as possible to the shops. You're not taking the stairs. You're taking the lift. You're finding little moments, little opportunities to do less because you're knackered. And then you get home at the end of the day stuffed and you go, Yeah, I should go for a run, swim, cycle, tap dance. You know, I should knock on the next door neighbour's door and see how the old lady's going, because I haven't seen her for a while and there's a weird smell coming from her place. So whatever it might be, you go, I should and I'm going to, but you know what, can't be stuffed tonight. So I'll collapse on the couch and I'll have a beer or Mars bar or whatever the indulgence is that says, you deserve it, buddy. You worked your clacker off. And then that becomes routine, and then that 5 kilos becomes 10 kilos, and then you're toast. You're absolutely toast. And then it's not until there's some form of crisis, and it might be a physical one, you know, heart attack, do your back, do your knee, whatever it might be, or it might be an ego one where you've seen a photo of yourself in your bathers and you go, oh my God, who is that fat bastard? That's not me. And then they get that wake up call, or they've got their daughter's wedding, or whatever the wake up call is. Then they go, that's it, back on track. And they have a crack, and they'll go two ways. They either go keep the ball rolling after 30 days, and then will generally go pretty well, or they crash and burn, because as we were talking about before, they start with the thing they did when they were fit. You know, when I was 20, I was a gymnast, or when I was 20, I was a footballer, or whatever it was. They go back to that old style of training, and their body's not ready for that. Can't cope with that anymore, so they crash and burn, and then they start that whole negative cycle again. So I guess what I see through my working life are people who are highly motivated. They want to start, but they either choose the wrong approach for where they're at with their bodies, and then crash and burn, or they overestimate their capacity. I'll go, yeah, I can do this. I can run a marathon. I go, mate, you're flat out getting out of a chair. Don't do this. So finding the right approach for where you're at is a key as well, and trying to find something that is fun and sustainable, I think, is another big challenge. So yeah, but to go back a step or two or three, I probably should give you a bit of my sort of background. My working life these days is kind of spread in three sort of definite directions. I spend about a third of my life. I go out in the oil rigs and I run health and wellbeing related programs out there for the guys offshore, which is really good fun. And I spend about a third of my working life working in, rehab programs for people who've had some sort of event. You know, they've been involved in an accident, or they've had a heart attack or a stroke, or they've perhaps have had a crack at suicide in a really bad spot, and they're trying to rebuild their bodies. And then a big chunk of it is spent either testing, going around to gyms and workplaces, testing to see how people are progressing. So as a result of that, I get to see people who are trying to rebuild their bodies with various levels of enthusiasm and expertise and motivation. And I get to see every style of eating and every style of exercise, everything from veganism to high fat, low carb, you name it. I see people who do mountains of cardio and people who don't do any cardio at all. In fact, one of my favourites is a gym, I think it's called Iron Body they were in Bournemouth, but I think they've just shifted. And their motto is, in fact, they've got a website, I think it's called fuckcardio.com.au. They despise any sort of cardio.
It's all weight-based.
Yeah, it's all lifting heavy shit, and that's fine. But what I see is that everything works. You can dance. You can do gymnastics. You can do judo. You can do lift heavy weights or light weights. You can do so many different things and get an incredible result. And that's the amazing thing. And also that a lot of people, the diet that they choose is completely unsustainable. But most people, doesn't matter what you do to begin with, you're going to get a bit of a result. But what fascinates me when I test people is not the ones that get results. It's the ones that don't get results. They're the really, really interesting ones, because, you know, I go to like an F45 high intensity interval training program, and high intensity interval training is kind of the gold standard in many ways. That's going to be a great activity for fat loss. Okay, beautiful. Or I'm going to go lift really heavy shit. That's the gold standard for building great bulk and muscle. Or I'm going to do endurance cycling, and that's the gold standard for fat loss and endurance fitness and whatever it might be. You're going to get a big chunk of people that will get that result in it. But what interests me are the ones that are doing it and not getting the result. Now, I go to a lot of gyms where people are doing pretty much everything they're being told to do.
In the gym.
Yep. Okay, and doing pretty much everything that they're being told to do with their diet as well, and they're not getting the result they want. Now, that has fascinated me for a long time, because in the past, as a gym instructor, our first port of call was to blame the client. We used to go...
It would be.
Yeah.
It'd be very frustrating for a coach as well, speaking from experience as well. Yeah.
And most of us think it's their fault. They're not doing, because let's be honest, plenty of clients lie to us.
All the time.
They lie constantly. Did you eat as I asked you to eat last week? Yeah.
Of course I did, yes.
Yeah. Then what are all those chocolate bars in the back of your car? They're my kids.
Yeah.
The dog ate it. They come up with all these bullshit excuses. But there are plenty of them that are doing it. And now I'm seeing that there's a genetic component to it as well. And you think about it, it makes total sense. If you look at the community, there's kind of a bell curve. At one end of the bell curve, there's the big powerhouse Tongan shot putter guy. He walks past a pie shop and puts on 5 kilos, but he can throw a shot put, country mile. He's just built for raw power and puts on weight really easily. At the other end of the spectrum, there's the ballet dancer, the tall, lean, and she's agile and she's graceful and finds it very difficult to put muscle on, very difficult to put weight on. She just burns through fuel, and she's great for things like Pilates and yoga is her combat sport. That's her thing. And then in the middle there's that kind of mesomorph, little Italian Greek guy who walks past the gym and puts on 5 kilos of muscle. He's just built to grow muscle. He's explosive, makes a brilliant gymnast, brilliant in a CrossFit box. They're explosive and they're great. And that's the bell curve of the population. The rest of us are in there somewhere. And yet what we tend to do is we give them all the same program. We give them all the same... Oops, Daisy.
No, we're good.
We're good. It destroys the table.
The phone's okay?
Yeah, good. That's all right. It's a little bit of coffee spillage. But what we do is we're giving them all the same program. Now, when I measure them, I go, okay.
Have you tried this other thing?
Yeah, I've stopped being judgmental about programs now. I used to go in there with, I've had 30 years in the game, so you go, I know everything. But there were too many people that didn't fit that. And you go, well, okay, let's try this approach and measure it and see if it works. Instead of me saying this will work, I'm going to say, well, all right, mate, this is the approach that I think is probably most likely the right one for you, given the sorts of things that you like, given the sort of body shape you've got, given your history, given your injuries, given the time that you've got available, and blah, blah, blah. And once we've got all that in place, we're going to create a program that I think is going to work. But I can't guarantee that. And too often I see instructors who get a new client in and they say, I'm guaranteeing that this is going to get a result for you. And
you can never guarantee in that world where you can't control everything.
Yeah, there are a lot of variables that we just don't have access to. I mean, you've only got to think of simple things like sleep. If that client's under a lot of stress and he's not sleeping properly, and he gets up the next morning, sleep affects everything you do. In fact, I often say I reckon sleep's the number one. But if you haven't slept well, you wake up the next morning and your training intensity is nowhere near where it should be for a start. So you can make skill errors, you can just not train hard enough, and then you make poor food choices, your hormones are all over the place, and you get
steamrolls.
Results. Yeah. There was a great study done by a group called PH360. They're looking at group of people they call night owls, people who instinctively like to train in the afternoon or evening. And they put them into a 2-year program of doing high-intensity interval training early in the morning. And what they found with that group was the majority of them either went backwards, got injured, or simply didn't improve. And then they put them into training in the afternoon or the evening when their bodies wanted them to train. And bugger me, they were dropping like 3, 4, 5, 6 kilos in the first few weeks, because there's a thing called chronobiology, or your body's clock, and it wants you to train at a particular time. And when you think about it, when I talk to clients all the time, I go, well, in your heart of hearts, in your guts, when do you reckon the best time is for you to train? So when do you reckon the best time is for you to train?
For me, at night. I've tried both. And I suppose the question is more so how many people are aware of their bodies at that level. If we're talking athletes specifically, we're more in tune with our body. We understand our body more. An office worker, 9 to 5, generally work because they're sitting down all day. I've tried training in the mornings, on the bike, in the gym. I'm not awake. I can't lift the heavy. And then as I've gotten older, I'm not that old, but the body couldn't train in the mornings at all. Then I start training at late afternoons, evenings.
Isn't that interesting?
So much better.
That you knew straight away.
Yes.
In your heart of hearts, you knew straight away when the best time for you to train is.
It wasn't also training, it was the competitions as well. That's a big factor. If we look at a Saturday morning Total Roche ride, most of the way down from Richmond to Mordialloc, I'm struggling pretty badly. Then once I'm awake, I'm a lot better off. But if I go back to competition days, the track and field competition days, the warmer weather at nights was the best time for results.
Well, I think if you look right across the board, most world records and best results are in the afternoon, early evening, because our bodies aren't designed to go like cut snakes first thing in the morning, although some people are. And you will have seen people like that in gyms. Like you go to a CrossFit gym and there are people doing backflips and doing crazy shit, and they're ever-ready bunnies. Like
I can't understand those people. But they've also got that flip side of they've got a job to get to by 9, and they also understand that the gym after 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whichever gym you choose, wherever you go around the world, that 3 onwards is crazy. As a trainer, you would have seen that. Totally. You want to use a machine?
Totally.
Non-machine? Cardio? You want to use a bit of floor space? You can't. Yeah. It's too busy. So then how do you find that balance as well for those clients?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said that being in tune with your body, I reckon, is absolutely key. You've got to listen to your body. Your body's telling you shit all the time, but too often we're overriding it. We're saying, no, I know better. You know, everyone else trains first thing in the morning. That's the best time to train. And you read literature that says you burn more fat first thing in the morning.
Metabolism kicks in.
All that raises your metabolic rate and
a lot of bullshit that goes out. That's all marketing ploy. Yes.
And that might well be that you burn a whisker more fat training first thing in the morning. But if you then feel like shit for the rest of the day, and then you're going to go and eat
more at night.
Yes. Make poor choices, then is it really of value? And the answer to that is probably not. So my thing, I guess, is I'm constantly saying don't guess, measure. Whatever you want to do. If you want to juggle heavy balls, do gymnastics, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Do it, but let's measure you at the start, middle and the end and see if what you think is happening is happening. And also, I often say to people, get measured after 4 weeks. Give your body time to adapt to this new regime, and then let's see if it's working. And what I see in the real world in testing is that 3 things happen. Some people will go away and they'll put on a truckload of muscle and a little bit of fat, and they'll have a cow over that. They'll go, oh no, this is terrible. You know, put on a bit of
fat, but you put on the muscle that you were after.
And I go, mate, but you've put on all this extra muscle, and muscle's king. The more muscle you've got, the more fat you burn, the higher metabolic rate. It is gold for your particular sport, which is whatever it might be. And others will go away and they'll lose a mountain of weight. Big chunk of that'll be fat, and another chunk of that'll be muscle, and they won't care. They go, doesn't matter because my overall weight is down. And I'm going, mate, this isn't good, because losing muscle means your metabolic rate slows down, means you kind of really need to eat a bit less, and you're exercising heaps, you're starving hungry. This is going to end badly. You're going to end up putting more fat on, and they go, la, 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 not listening, don't care.
I've lost the weight, I've achieved my goal, tick.
I've lost weight. And that's not ideal. But what we want is ideally to see muscle mass increase, body fat decrease, and who gives a rat's toss what you weigh. And that's why I say to people, come back and get measured in about 4 weeks so that we can see which of those 3 categories your body is falling into. And then we can go, okay, I'm going to tweak my training in this way, or I'm going to tweak my eating in this way. I'm going to adjust as a result of the facts, the data, because the data doesn't lie. Your actual muscle mass, when we see that increases your bone density, and this stuff doesn't lie. It tells you that what you're doing is giving you a favourable result, or it's not giving you a favourable result. And if it's not giving you the result you want, why are we doing this? Well, because I always train this way. Well, you're an
Maybe
idiot.
that's not the answer.
It's not working. So that's the fascinating part of measuring, is it's changed my, I guess, I'm not as judgmental when I see people come in and they say to me, I'm doing plenty of things right. I now look at them and think, well, maybe you are. Maybe you are, but maybe the approach that you're using is not the one that you should be using. So let's look at changing the approach. Whereas in the past, like most instructors, we go, this client's full of shit. He's lying to me. He's eating chocolate, and he's not doing this, and he's not doing that. And sometimes it can be a bit of that, like, because I don't know about you, but I don't know too many perfect people. My wife is perfect, and I don't know anyone who's going to tell her she's not. She's not listening to this issue.
We'll find out. We'll send a direct message.
Who must be obeyed. But most of us, we muck it up from time to time, and
no, you give in no matter what what you're doing.
Absolutely, you do. And
you have a really hard day. You're grinding through whatever training you're doing.
Totally,
all the time.
Well, you look at life. When you look at when people are in their most emotional time, they resort to food and drink. You win Tats Lotto, you grab 10 of your best mates and you're off to the nearest restaurant eating, drinking, celebrating. Your best mate dies and you go to the funeral and we all eat and drink and commiserate, because it's a kind of a soothing process to help us get through this really painful, this high emotion period. And so it's normal for people to do that. When you fell over as a little kid and mum patted you on the head and stuffed a biscuit in your gob to shut you up, it was a very early on in life we learnt food is soothing. And so we fall back to that pretty regularly. It's a default position. So, and in some cultures, it's a big event. You go to an Italian family on a Sunday, they've got as much pasta that you can't jump over, or a Tongan family that's having a big sort of eat fest. It's really a common thing. So we get told very early in life that food is there to help you get through. The challenge is that we also get told by Instagram that you've got to have a six-pack that you can grate cheese on at any given moment. So there's a lot of pressure on us, especially I reckon with women, and I see that
all the time.
Oh, I had a young, gorgeous girl come in to get tested probably a year or so ago, and she walked in the door, and my colleague and I, we just looked at each other when she walked in and went, wow, like she just looked ripped and awesome. But she also had probably the saddest look I've ever seen. She walked in like she'd just, lost her best friend. I said, what's going on? She said, I've just busted my ass for 10 weeks and nothing's changed. I went,
what do you mean nothing's changed?
Nothing's changed?
What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, and when I measured her, she had dropped, and she would have been probably a 5'2" girl, so not a big lady at all, but she dropped 3.5 kilos of fat. That's like a loaf of bread plus 2 tubs of butter. And on a small-framed woman, that's a truckload. And she'd put on 3.5 kilos of muscle. Now, you and I both know how hard that is to do.
Incredibly hard.
Like,
But she's also looking at the total figure at the end of the day of 0.
Yeah, she's gone, my scale weight's exactly the same. I go, well, okay. And when we measured her and I showed her the numbers and said, okay, look, you've put on all this amazing amount of muscle, you've dropped this amazing amount of body fat. And she said, well, yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I do feel fitter. I do feel better.
And I can see the visible differences.
Yeah,
I can see the tone.
Yeah.
I don't really like that word tone, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and I said to her, surely you got really positive feedback from friends and family. She said, yeah, plenty of people said stuff, but I thought they'd just been nice to me. Okay.
People can be nice.
Yeah, they can be nice. But I go, well, what about your clothes? She said, I just thought they'd stretched. And I go, okay. So there's something going on in your head as well. And there is, one of my favourite cartoons on the planet is this, and I show it to a lot of my clients, of a man and a woman look at themselves in the mirror. And
yes.
you would have seen
yes,
this.
I have, yeah.
Gorgeous girl looking in the mirror, and all she sees is this fatty boombar monster. And then there's the bloke who's a fatty boombar monster.
Sees a six-pack, man.
Yeah.
It's great. That's what it is.
Mate, I see it every day of the week. And it's because we're all of us are delusional. I find it fascinating when I measure the guy's height, because I get there. I've got a machine that measures their height before I put them on the in-body. And every bloke I measure is 6'3". Until they get measured, they go, oh, that can't be right. I go, oh, really? Okay. And every woman I measure pretty much knows their height to the millimetre. And they're really quite accurate, but blokes all lie. Having said that, I reckon I'm 6'2". Probably.
No one would disagree.
Yeah, exactly. There's no film here, is there?
No, there's no film. There's no tape measure.
Hobbits are us.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm the tallest hobbit, And but it's just because we just have this. We're all a bit delusional. We all have this vision of ourselves that is affected by, our childhood, our careers, our families, our feedback, you name it, and we don't often have an accurate look at ourselves. And again, that's why I love my job, is because I give people an unemotional, accurate vision of where they're at as opposed to where they think they are. And so once they've done that, the next step is to be able to say, well, okay, with all the bullshit put aside, this is where you're at. Where would you like to be? What are you thinking of for the future? And what's your plan for that? And so the process I use is to say, well, okay, what's your goal? Where do you want to be? What's the magic wish? And if you achieve that, how would that make you feel? And what's the outcome of that? And they go, well, if I lost 5 kilos, I'd fit in my clothes better, I'd have more energy, I'd be more enthusiastic with my kids, I'd be able to play my sport better, whatever the outcome is. I go, that's great. And what that does is pretty much just create another wish list. Everyone has wishes, and that's great. And it often stops there because they haven't really considered what the obstacles to that are. I go, well, okay, that's what you'd like to be, and that's how nice it would be. What's stopping you? What are the obstacles to that? Well, the obstacle is, I work 3 jobs, I've got a broken leg.
And you've got kids.
You've got kids, my cat died. Okay, well, it's fine. They're all legitimate obstacles. But now what's the plan? How do we get past those obstacles? How do we get you to where you want to be?
Just what we mentioned before about being selfish in achieving your goals.
Yeah.
How do you tell someone, especially if they've got their own trainer, not the ones that work at the offices come to see you directly through a corporate invitation, how do you tell the trainer's clients to be more selfish when they're probably getting a different perspective from the trainer? How does that relationship go?
Yeah, that is a delicate one because I don't want to step on other professionals' toes.
Do you talk to the trainers and work a relationship together? Would that be the best way to go?
Some trainers are more open to that, and they want honest feedback. They'll go, how'd you go? Or how'd you go? I go, well, mate, this is what the numbers are telling me. He's got this percentage body fat and this level of muscle, and there's a real weakness here in the legs. So I'm looking at that, and that's telling me he could benefit from a bit more, squats and whatever. So they'll be open to that, and they'll go, oh, mate, that's really helpful. That's great because I can design a program to alleviate that problem, and away we go. Great. But others are really sort of stressed by that. They don't you tell me I know it all.
My client, my program. Do you find that sort of trainer is also that I don't use the word the generalist, but this is how everyone trains. This is how we're going to achieve our goals, guaranteed. Might be the words to be used on that one.
Yeah.
But I don't train people differently within my group.
Yeah, that's, I find really sad because we're all different. So why are we giving a generic program
Across.
And we sort of don't do that when because we've got all these tests available to us to find out where people are at. We don't do that generically, but then we give them a generic program. And I think there's an element of ego in that and an element of laziness, really, as an instructor.
A lot of ego. A lot of ego in that industry.
Yeah, there is.
Because I'm the best.
Yeah. And I kind of get that in a way because for you to be able to run your business, you've got to be pretty confident that you've got all the answers. And that's one of the beautiful things about getting older is you go, I don't have to have all the answers. I can find out for you. I don't have to know everything. You don't have to be that guru, that mega ego. We can look at things and say, well, okay, this is simply not working. Let's explore further and find out what the answers are. And for a lot of trainers, especially young ones, and I get that because they can be a bit vulnerable. A lot of young trainers come in, they do a 6-week course and then get thrown in the deep end.
Thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. And you've got people that have got all sorts of very challenging issues going on, and you can mess them up pretty badly if you get it wrong. So I understand that vulnerability and the pressure. And a lot of gyms, they're all fighting over clients. Like you go to a lot of these big commercial gyms and you've got 6 new personal trainers walking in there and they've gone, well, unless I get five clients, I'm not eating this week. So there's a lot of pressure on them.
Oh, there's heaps. So, you have that minimal base that you have to pay back as a trainer yourself.
Absolutely.
I pay $300 before I can get $1 myself from clients.
Yeah. So it's a tough gig. And you're up at dawn training and and then clients don't turn up or they don't pay or whatever the case may be, or they get injured and they blame you. Or, so it's a tough gig. So, and they want instant results as well. So there are a lot. I totally get that. It's a tough gig being a trainer, which is why they tend to not last that long. I think the average trainer now does, if they make 2 years, they're doing well.
Yeah.
So
are you finding, because you visit a lot of gyms, a lot of trainers.
Yeah, about 500 around the country.
How many tests would you do, say, a week or a month or a year?
I get through before COVID, I was getting around 25,000 a year.
Would you say for those 25,000 tests, visiting the 500 gyms, is there a certain culture within a gym that's more related to successful
what a great question.
Results?
Totally. Oh, absolutely.
You would be able to tell pretty quickly walking into a gym environment, you go, this place is going to have shit results.
Pretty much.
Don't know what to do because I can't tell the owners because they won't listen to me. And the clients are going to go, how dare you tell me about that about my gym of choice? But then that could also be a switch to go, you know what, I think you're right. Because I come to this place all the time and I'm not feeling that community feel.
That is a brilliant question because that is the key to success is being able to sustain whatever the hell you're doing, whatever approach you're going to do. And the thing that sustains people at that gym is community. When you walk into a gym, when I walk into a gym, I can feel immediately the vibe of the place and go, oh, this is a great place. This is a cracking place. And all of the good gyms and organisations that I go to, you feel at the moment you walk in there that the owner of the joint, the staff at the place have got a big smile on their face and they know everything about you and they genuinely care about you. They know all your kids' names, they know your dog's name, they know everything about you and they're genuinely interested. And one of the things I love about Australians is that we've got this incredible bullshit barometer, bullshit radar. Don't you reckon?
It's pretty accurate, yes,
you
absolutely.
walk in and you instantly know. Like when you go into you're going to Myers or somewhere like that, and the shop assistant comes up to talk to you, and you know they don't give a rat's ass about you. Can I help you as they're chewing and looking up the ceiling and don't give a stuff? Or when they come up to you and you go, hi, if there's anything you need, let me know. I'll be over there. I won't annoy you. And you go, oh, this kid gets it. She really understands. And gyms are like that. Australians will know the moment they walk into the gym whether the owners really care. And there's a cracking gym in Richmond called XO Fitness. A guy there called Jimmy Taylor on Bridge Road. Amazing guy. I tested people there. They got incredible results. But Jimmy could look at those results and go, yeah, but she's also lost weight off her face and her hips are different and this is that and there. And I'd say to him, how do you know that, mate? And he goes, I just know. Because he cares. And he's really engrossed in each one of those people there. He just knows everything about them. There's a guy that runs Original Boot Camp, and they've got centres all around Melbourne. And he can tell whether someone's down or not just by the way they walk in. And I've seen him do it. He'll go over and he'll just give someone that little bit of attention, that little bit of a nudge, and you go, okay. And afterwards he'll come up and have a chat and you go, he did it the other day. There was a bloke who was seriously depressed, going through a very difficult time in his life. And by the end of the session, he was laughing and carrying on. And I go, how did you do that? He goes, I don't know. I could just tell from the moment he walked in, his body language, everything about him, he wasn't quite right. And to create a community, you have to care. You have to observe. You have to be committed to that community. And too often I see a lot of the commercial gyms, the only thing you get when you join that gym is the key to the front door. Yeah. And in a lot of those gyms, they make money on you not turning up anyway. So it's small.
And unfortunately, that's what I saw. Totally. When I was a PT at Fitness First at Nunawading, there was a young boy, 16 or so, was a very keen cyclist who wasn't far off being on the development path for VIS. He's come in. Yeah. I need to have a gym. So that's an easy tick the box. We're around the corner from you, so this is easily the best place to go. I've got the salesperson with me talking to this kid, and I'm in the back of my head going, this is not the place for you. But I can't say that in front of the salesperson because I'm going to get a crack over the head. Yeah. Okay, we've got all the weight equipment here that you will need. But as for what you need the extra wind trainers, you need the recovery, you need everything else, the physios to go with your whole package. You need to go to the VIS or you need to find a high-performance place. We've got the weights here for you. You still need to find everything else. And you still feel by saying that, giving the right advice, which is the honest and correct advice, you're still going to get a slap over the sales manager. Go, why did you do that? That's an extra, $100 a month we've just lost. You go, but from the perspective for me, I could train him and I could honestly say I could not get the best out of him because we don't have the resources here. He needs this specialist advice.
I find that really sad. I just reckon if you do the right thing by people, you're going to get it back further down the track somewhere else. If you're able to say, look, mate, this is not the place for you, this place over here is, they're going to tell 10 of their friends and you'll get it back somewhere down the track. I just find it frustrating that so many places, so many gyms are giving these cookie cutter approaches. It's a generic program.
Legs, chest, back, core, go.
And okay, that's going to work with some people, but it's not going to work with plenty more. And you're right, he had specific needs and we're not catering for those needs. We shouldn't be selfish and saying, I want your money. We should be saying either I'm going to get these extra resources or I'm going to send you somewhere that needs it. So that's the big challenge for the industry. And the industry's changing, I think, for the better because of COVID. COVID's given the industry a massive wake-up call. They've suddenly gone, we've got to, I hate using this word, pivot, but we've got to find a better way to connect to people. And so suddenly they've been doing Zoom programs, and that's been enlightening because a lot of people go, you know what?
They feel that they need the gym, but they don't really.
Yeah, I can't get to the gym. I haven't got the time or whatever. So a Zoom workout is going to be really good for me. But it's also been enlightening for the client to go, mate, you never train as hard on your own as you do with that group. You're always going to train harder at the gym with all your mates busting the foofer valve, all swearing and sweating and who you are at the end. You just get dragged along. again, the outdoor boot campers, they're a really interesting group, because a lot of their training is about the intensity of the workout, but also getting you to encourage everyone else around you. And it's really interesting. I was reading this awesome book about the US Navy SEALs, and they have a Hell Week training program that they go to get into the SEALs. Right, so basically they torture you for 24 hours a day for 7 days. You get minimal sleep, minimal food, and away you go. And they're incredibly fit athletes that get into it, but they're not necessarily the ones that get through. The mentally tough ones do. And the mentally tough ones all talk about, once I stopped thinking about just myself and I started thinking about the bloke next to me and everyone else in the group, my team, it became easier. So it wasn't just me suffering, it was about all of us in this together getting through it. And I found that incredibly powerful. It's a bit like you talk about when we go for a ride down to Mordialloc. If I'm going on my own,
it's a shit ride.
It's a shit ride, and I can
especially into the
pull
wind.
back. Yeah, but when I'm with all of you guys, I get dragged along by the enthusiasm of the group and your big fat bum in front of me that I'm trying to catch up to. I'm trying to go, wait for me. And you get dragged along and you go much harder than you normally would because of the group. So OBC does that really, really well. They will get people to encourage each other, and you get recognised for helping somebody else. They get little awards and things like that.
That's pretty cool.
I love that approach.
That's really cool.
Encouraging creates community, creates commitment, creates relationships. I've got a client who trains at, I'm not going to mention Q Recreation Centre because that'd be wrong.
That would be.
But if it was there, he's got an office across the road from there, and he goes off and trains there because it's very convenient. But he said, I've been going there for 2 years. No one knows my name. Nobody speaks to me. I go in, do my thing, walk out, and I find that so sad. And I know he doesn't train as hard there as he does when he trains with me in my garage with shit equipment.
You've got no one there at all supporting you, which is kind of the key for anyone who wants to be an athlete of any level. That's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
Then you go into another gym that says, "Hi, John, how are you going today?"
And you bristle, your chest is out, and away you go. You just want to get involved. And that's something that I think the gym industry kind of knows, but it's got lazy with. And I think COVID has reignited that enthusiasm to go, oh, wow, I've got to know my people better. I've got to engage with my people better. And they've got a lot of challenges. Like the media the other day, they came out with this stat that said we did a survey, and a third of people are not going back to their gyms.
Where did you pull that crap from?
Yeah, and it depends on how you phrase it too. Well, I immediately thought, well, that means 2/3 are going. Great. And you only got to go to your local park during this COVID nightmare, and you suddenly see it packed with people. People buying bikes. There's squillions of people buying bikes to get out there. So people are recognising the value of exercise. So gyms are going to do fine. They're going to, because people want to get back to communities. They want to get back to their mates. They want to get back to engaging with people. So if gyms decide that the client is really important again, which they have, they're going to get the feedback. They'll be involved, and they'll hang on to people.
Do you think more the training studios, the PTs, are going to be better in the future than the big chain gyms?
Totally.
In that sense?
I reckon they're there now. I really do. People they have massive turnovers in the big chain gyms, and there's a reason for that.
That they do, yes.
I used to do a lot of testing in them, and I hated it. I hated testing the big gyms because
the same people wouldn't have been there for the recount 4 weeks' time.
Yeah,
that's what I found as a trainer.
Massive drop off, but also the results were pretty average. They were really average. The big drop off, average results. Whereas when you're in that sort of niche gym where everyone knows each other and everyone's busting their full foot together and getting dragged along together, the results are stunning. Absolutely stunning. There's a gym up in Emerald run by this amazing lady, Julie Hoffman. I cannot tell you the results they get. They are stunning results. in terms of the amount of fat that they lose and muscle that they gain. That's all good. But to be honest, you can do that anywhere. What's amazing about it is the numbers. About 99% of people that start finish. And you just don't see that anywhere.
Wow.
It is stunning because she's created this incredible, caring, amazing community. And you know, it's not rocket science stuff. It's just being a genuine person. You know, if you don't train, she's on your, you know, on the phone, on Facebook, going, "What's the problem? Where were you last night? Oh, I can't train because Johnny's sick. Bring Johnny. We'll put him up. I'll hold him on my lap." You know, she finds a way to get past that obstacle. And as I was saying before, that whole thing is, what's your goal? That's easy. That's just a glass of red and a Friday night. You can come up with 200 goals. To then say, what's the outcome of that going to be? I'm going to be fabulous, in great shape, and that'll be great. But the real challenge is the obstacles and the planning. People are really good at wish lists, really good at I want, but they're not great at coming up with plans to get past those obstacles. People are really good at starting, but not really good at following through. And we're all of us are guilty of that from time to time, but we need help to do that. And that's what our industry is about. It's about helping people. I give them the numbers and prove that what they're doing. The trainer gives them the routine that gets them there, the eating plan. And I think now more than ever we need to be less judgmental and go, okay, if this isn't working, let's find a way that works for you, which is fascinating. And not just for grown-ups, for kids as well.
Oh, imperative. Absolutely.
My wife's a teacher, and recently they put a big emphasis into healthy eating because of COVID and everything else. And they had a day where they encouraged the kids to bring only healthy food to school. And for all these good reasons, blah, 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 blah. So no junk, no rubbish. And they caught parents arriving, handing McDonald's over the fence to their little Johnny because he couldn't go one day without some sort of treat reward type food. What the hell is that all about? Like, you can't get through one day without giving your kid rubbish. There was an article in today's paper talking about backlash from parents who are saying, we don't want teachers telling us what to put in our lunches. Well, I'm sorry, should I apologise for trying to make your kid healthy? Should I apologise to the little kid who's allergic to, he's got nut allergy or something, and your kid's turning up with peanut butter? Should I apologise to the parents of that kid that we killed because they were sharing their lunchbox? No.
Not at all. Not at all. I've heard a few of those stories about the Maccas over the fence. I've heard a lot of that, and I can't believe it.
I still can't believe it. It's just, maybe we're in the wrong field, but it just seems beyond dumb to me and selfish and pathetic. I think a bit of that is for a lot of parents, they just simply can't say no to their kids anymore.
Oh, there's a lot of that. We're talking participation medals, which I want to say that's slowly going out. I want to say that because I'm hearing a lot of it. But
dab myself in the eye with a plastic fork.
I don't get it. I don't get this whole you can't have a win-loss because that's going to put the kid down. But then in 12 years' time when they finish school and they get knocked back from a job, the business doesn't give a shit that he's not got a job. They've got the better applicant.
Yeah.
So we're building them up to fail and to...
How do we create resilience if we don't fail? And I don't know.
Because most times you have a loss, you improve. You've got something to work on. You have some negatives to go. Richmond, for example, right now, playing like absolute crap.
And it's beautiful to see.
No, it's not. Let's not say that.
As a Carlton supporter, I can say that. I've been suffering for a very long time.
Well, before 2017, we were suffering for a long time.
That's true. That is true.
But there's always opportunities. Same with any other sport or anything that you do outside sport as well. You see the opportunities to develop. And that's what we're not seeing in anything.
Yeah, and we're talking we want a resilient culture, but we're not creating that when we do things like that. And I know schools are trying really hard to develop that resilient nature. And as
but
parents,
also
we've got to
parents.
Yeah, we've got to come to the party. We've got to come to the party too and go, okay, what's our role in this? Well, our role is to occasionally say no to kids. And you don't have to be their best friend every day of the week as a parent.
Some would say you're better off not being the best friend.
Yeah.
Because you need to have that authority.
Totally. But that doesn't seem to be the culture. Too many of us are going, oh, it's too hard. Having said that, for a lot of parents who just, as you've done, experienced the whole teaching from home, it's bloody hard work.
It's incredibly hard.
It is incredibly hard.
So we go, thank God they're back at school.
It's bless their cotton socks.
Oh, there's a great Instagram page. I think it's called Batuta.
Batuta?
Batuta. No. You've got to check it out. It's really, really funny. I had a mate put me onto it. I think it was coming up to midway through the term. So you have midterm results and surveys, and parents are always going off at teachers for doing a bad job. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So midway through a term, the parents are still going off at teachers for doing a bad job, even though the parents at home are the ones doing the teaching. So who they're actually criticising, I don't know. But the homeschooling's been incredibly hard, and maybe it's an opportunity for the parents to see that. But then there's the other side where the parents also turn a blind eye that their kids aren't all that, and they're little pains in the arse.
Yeah.
And they don't want to correct that.
Maybe that's what we found during this, that my kid's not as wonderful as I thought he was. Maybe he's a bit more difficult than I thought he was.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a bit more evil than I thought he was. So, yeah, it has been a massive learning curve. But the number of people, because I go to a lot of homes and do families and stuff, and the number of parents that have just said, mate, too hard. I've just given up on homeschooling because, I'm working as well, and I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and trying to do homeschooling is bloody hard work. And I'm really relieved that they're going back to school. And yeah,
I think a lot of us were in that boat.
Totally.
I really think.
Totally. Yeah.
So getting back to cultures in gyms and the studios, do you ever walk into some of those negative gyms, talk to the clients that aren't getting results, and then talk to them how they feel about coming into the gym without subtly telling them, is this the right place for you? Going, maybe it's not, there's plenty of other opportunities out there. You've just got to go find it. Have you spoken to the trainer about the other options out there? Not out in the world, but other options in what I'm doing to achieve my goals.
Yeah, it's a very delicate one. It is a very delicate one. So what I tend to do is not so much give advice. What I tend to do is question them and go, so tell me about what your goals are again, and what approach you're using, and what are your results looking like, and where do you think your weaknesses lie, and what part of the program do you think might be helping or not helping in that area, and what are your choices out there? And they work it out pretty quickly.
I would have thought. And I would have thought the real positive gyms would be on your side in that transparent communication back to them.
Yeah,
as you were saying before.
And because I've been doing this for for many years now, what I tend to do now is only work at good gyms.
It's much easier, much better.
Well, it's on my side of it. It's I'm selfish because I just don't need the angst. And you go in there and it's really frustrating. Really nice people busting their foofer and not getting a result is just awful. So when I tend to work in really nice gyms with nice people, good programs, getting great results, it's just fun. It's just so joyful to walk in there. Like I'll get a gym and they'll go, oh, can you come and test on Friday? Mate, I can't get there fast enough because I know it's going to be really
a good day for
result, and they're going to be really happy. The client's going to be really happy. And what other job in the world does the client do all the work and I get all the credit? I reckon that's pretty damn good. And they're jumping up and down, and we're all hugging and going, how good's this? And I go, yes, you're magnificent. We're all excited. And that's really fun. But when you do, a line of people lining up and they're just going backwards, and you go, okay, you've just busted your ass for 10 weeks and you're worse. That's not a whole lot of fun. And people feel awful, and they're looking for someone to blame, and gyms wanting to blame the client's wanting to blame the gym, and I want to get out there as fast as possible. So I tended to just get away from those gyms, and now I've got the gyms that I know that are good, and they're going to get a good result, and if there's not, we'll find out what the story is and we'll sort it for them. And it's a fun place to go to, and it's not stressful. What's interesting is corporates and workplaces, they're different because you don't always go in there as part of a program. Sometimes I'll just do a testing regime for whatever reason, and you go in there and you go, okay, you're good, bad, or you're not so flash. and you don't get to have an impact on that. Although more companies now go, okay, can you do a program from that in a way? It sort of develops from there. But corporate's definitely different because they're looking for not so much, they're looking for productivity improvements. So they don't care what you weigh, they want to know how much energy you've got to put into your role. And what some of these programs now do is that it actually shows the sort of personality traits that you've got, and that helps find out what the best role is for you. Like a lot of the programs now, the PH360 is an interesting one too because it gives you character traits that go with that style of person. You know, we talked about the ectomorph and the endomorph and the mesomorph. A lot of those mesomorph types have got tons of energy, masses of energy, because their body was really designed to cope well with adrenaline. And what that means is they're really good for energy, they're really good at starting stuff. They're either fully on or they're fully off. Like they go really hard and they start things really well, but they don't necessarily finish it. And they'll take on 300 different projects and only finish 3 of them. So they're really good to start programs, but they're not really great for following through. Then you've got the sort of, we call them diplomats, the dudes that are kind of procrastinators really. They want to sit back and they want to look at all the different possibilities, all the different options and get the plan absolutely right, because fundamentally they don't want to make mistakes. And they're great in CEO type roles to be able to look at big picture, get the plan in place, and then unleash the activator to go and sell the thing. Or there's the what I call what we call the crusader types. They're the ones that, like the triathlete, that has the list of all the things. They're always on a mission. They've got a list of things that they have to do, and ticking off that list floods their brain with dopamine and makes them really happy. And they go, "Yep, beauty." And I can't stop. I haven't ticked off all my boxes. I can't leave work until I've ticked off all the boxes. I've got to get everything done.
And we all know people like that.
Yeah, exactly. And what these sort of people do is we often put them in the wrong role. But once you start to look at these people and go, okay, he's this type of person. Not only for his fitness, he's better off working in a CrossFit box than a yoga studio. He's better off in sales than he is doing big picture programs. So in corporate, it's not just about their fitness; it's about their performance, and so it's a slightly different feel for it. But
it's fascinating, actually.
It is really interesting.
How many corporations, companies look at that side now?
More and more now. I'm doing Vic Roads now. They're spreading it throughout their whole organisation. It's fascinating to watch how that goes, and it changes the way they interact with each other too. Once they start to know, yeah, of course, you're that kind of person. No wonder you're frustrated with me. Now I'm going to change my approach to you. We were talking earlier about the early bird and the night owl trainers. If you put that night owl trainer in the morning, he's just not suited for that. But you put him in the afternoon or evening, it's perfect for him. So if you put a activator type energy everybody bunny into sales, he's going to be brilliant at that. You put him into a job where it's rote learning, repeating the same task over and over, he's just going to be jumping off the Westgate Bridge. So it's about their total well-being, their total life, the total you, not just how fit you want to be. And it takes time, it takes a bit of energy, but it gives a great result in the long run. Yeah, but so corporates are certainly looking more and more at that. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's actually fascinating. Might have to look into that one a bit further later.
Yeah, well, we'll do another session on that one day.
So you call everyone athlete. You always tag it with, "Hey, athlete, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Is there a reason behind it? Because everyone's an athlete.
Because I reckon everyone is, and most people go, "Oh, an athlete, you've got to be, Usain Bolt, ripped weapon." But an athlete is everybody who's trying to improve. And I don't know anybody who's not trying to improve. I don't know anybody who says, I don't want to be in a better place. We're all busting our fulfer valves every day of our lives to be better. And if you're not, there's something not quite right with you, mate. And most of us want to be in a better place. We want our kids to be in a better place. We want our families, our communities, our workplace to be in a better place. Our job in this field is to help them get there, to give them the tools, to give them the chance to get to that better place. And sometimes that just means giving them an opportunity to, I reckon, stop. And that's what COVID's done. It's given us a chance to stop and go,
reevaluate.
what does this better place actually look like? The number of people that I've tested and gone, you know what, this has been the best thing ever because I was killing myself. I was one of those. And it sneaks up on you. You just keep taking on more and more challenges, roles, and before you know it, the things that brought joy to your life are slipping through the cracks. And so we're using stimulants like coffee, beer, chocolate, whatever it is, to fill that gap, and that hurts you. So this is giving us an opportunity to stop, take stock, and go, what's the best me actually look like? What's the best performer look like? And how do I contribute to my family and my community and my workplace and my world? How do I make that a better place? So that's how I see our job. And yes, everyone's an athlete.
Everyone is. Has anyone come back at you and said, I'm not an athlete, stop calling
Constantly.
me that? Why would you do that? I don't understand. And then 6 weeks later they go, I get it now.
Yep.
Was it all?
Constantly. I get that a lot. I go, I'm not an athlete. I'm fat or I'm ugly or I'm tall or I'm short or I'm this or I'm that.
Slap it out of them.
Yeah, I go, yeah, you are, mate. Don't you worry about that. You are a demigod. And they laugh and I go, of course you are. An athlete is someone who's trying to get better. Every day an athlete wakes up, they're trying to get better. And if you're coming to see me, you're wanting to be better. You know, you might not be overt about it, but the reason you're getting checked is because you're hoping like hell that what you're doing is working. Or you're about to start and you're hoping like hell that you're going to see improvement because you're nervous that you're going to be busting your foot valve for 6 weeks and see no change. And that's why they come to see me, because you can do a lot of good positive work and be changing your body for the better and not necessarily be able to see it for a variety of reasons, because it might be the tool that you're using, the bathroom scales, isn't reflecting what's happening. Because if you're putting on muscle and getting stronger, thicker, heavier bones, that's making you heavier on the scales, and you could be losing body fat at the same time, you'd be exactly the same weight but a different body. A bit like the young girl I was talking about earlier that dropped 3.5 kilos. So if you're just using bathroom scales as a measure, you're going to be disheartened. So our challenge is to say, well, let's use markers that genuinely show that we're improving. And it might be that you're sleeping longer, better quality sleep. It might be your energy levels. It might be your patience with your kids. It might be, yes, you're putting on muscle. It might be, yes, you're losing body fat. It might be you're less reactive at work with a colleague. It might be that you understand where they're coming from because you now know the sort of person that they are. So we're all athletes. We're all improving, whether that's as a parent, you know, or whether as a footballer. We're all going in that direction, hopefully.
I'm sure we are. Well, most of us at the moment are. There's a lot more that need to catch up onto that one.
Yes.
I asked that before because I know in Australia we go with nicknames and little names if we forget people's names, or we call them chief, champ.
Yeah.
The athlete definitely is the one to choose in future. I might have to start changing that one.
It's yours.
You get found out. Got the bullshit barometer.
The bullshit barometer's absolutely.
You forget someone's name, hi chief or hi Mr. Verbi,
mate.
Whatever it is, mate.
Yep.
Athlete's much better. Much better. Keynote speaking.
Yes.
Was that before your PT days? Was that all throughout? How did that come in? Because it fits in perfectly.
One of my first, jobs was I was working at a program at Deakin University called the Gut Buster program, and it was a fundamentally weight loss program for men, and I would go and do small groups and stuff like that, and invariably there was someone in a corporate group in that group said, "Can you come and talk to my troops?" And I'd go, I don't know whether I really want to do that. I'm kind of shy. And my family laughs at that. Oh. And they go, yeah, just come along. And it kind of grew from that. I would just start doing more and more. And then, 30 years later, here I am. It just happens at regular intervals. And then I worked with key groups, men's health groups and things like that. And so it would develop into companies, and they, you know, Harry would be at this company and he'd leave and go to another company and say, "Can you come and do it?" And then Men's Health Week became prominent, 10 years ago, and my workload goes insane during Men's Health Week, and so it would just slowly develop from that. And again, it's because people really, really want to be in a better place, and they want someone who's kind of been with people who've been in a bad place and got better. And that's where I've been. I've been with lots of groups that have been in very difficult circumstances. People have had that heart attack or had that stroke or had that crack at suicide and have rebuilt themselves. And kind of, for me, it was where I first got my direction of work. As a probably 17, 18-year-old kid, I started work in a gym primarily because I wanted to chase hot girls. That was my number one incentive. They didn't want to chase me, but I wanted to chase them. And I was working in this gym and it was fantastic. I loved it. Way too much lycra, way too many leg warmers. And it was fun. Really enjoyed it until one day I was working at reception late at night and someone came running up and said, "Oh, there's a guy on the squash court who's had a heart attack." And the receptionist and myself ran out there and we did CPR on this fellow, and sadly he passed away. And the ambos arrived and off it went. And I was devastated. I was absolutely gutted. And a few moments later, that man's son came in and was hysterical. And it had a big impact on me. And as a kid then I thought, this is where I need to be working because I never want to see this shit happen again. And so, yeah, it sort of directed me. I didn't know where I wanted to be in my working life, but it started from that moment. I went, this is where I'm going to go. And so I studied phys ed and nutrition, exercise, and that was the direction that I went and been in for the rest of my life, really. But that was the wake up moment for me as a young bloke.
Because it definitely suits your character, that field.
Well, I guess it does. I've never wanted to do anything else because it's you see people really happy. You see them really happy when they get to where they want to be, and you go, "How good's this?" And I joked about it before. They do all the work, and I take all the credit. And if they stuff it up, it's not my fault. You didn't do as I told you to do. So it's a win. It's a win-win. So it's just the best job in the world.
Extremely challenging, that particular world. I got into a little bit of rehabilitation training when I was PTing, the strength and conditioning. So there's a wide range to work from. But you're also talking prior to real rehabilitation or mental rehabilitation, so to speak.
Well, it's in every aspect where we're rehabilitating. I worked for probably 9 years, working in special schools with disabled kids. And it's exactly the same approach. We've got a bunch of limitations here. You're in a wheelchair or you've got this problem, this problem, this problem. How do we get you to a better space? That's the obstacle. What's the goal? What's the plan? Where do we go to? And you know what? We all do it. I work with guys in finance, in the finance world. That's exactly what they do. They go, "All right, mate, you're broke. You want to be a millionaire? What's the plan? This is how you do a budget. These are the obstacles. Rah, rah, rah." It's not rocket science. It's just about stopping long enough to do it. And we do it all the time for other people, don't we? You do it for your kids every day of the week. You go, "Okay, mate, you want to make the basketball team, you know what you do? You got to drop 5 kilos and you got to, get off the couch, leave the Nintendo and, it's not rocket science, but it's stuff that we do for others and often neglect ourselves and put ourselves, I see it all the time with women. Women, at the risk of being sexist, women are really good at looking after everybody else's goals, wants, needs and requirements.
Before themselves.
And pushing themselves further back. And you watch it when you see a young mum, she's full of prolactin, that lovely, nurturing hormone that says, "I'm going to give you everything, and expect nothing back. I'm going to be up all night, cleaning your bum and wiping your nose and feeding you, and I'm going to expect absolutely nothing from you, but you're going to get bucket loads of love." And so they're busting their fufa for that little baby and the family, and they put themselves last and last and last.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're knackered sitting on the couch going,
They've got no energy from themselves.
You know.
No, I see it. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the conversations I've had with my wife ever since we've had our first kid. And I said, you can't be putting them first, because if you don't put yourself first, you can't do the things you're talking about for them. You can't look after them at all.
Yeah.
And I can't do it on my own. I need you around. You've
Total.
also got your goals from pre-baby. You want to get back to
Yeah.
athletics. You want to get to sport. You want to get back to the gym. You need to be starting to do that, because that's also going to set an example for the kids to go out and do it themselves, because they're going to parrot exactly what we're saying, but also follow and copy exactly what we're doing.
That first 5 years, they are watching everything we do.
Good and bad.
And good and bad, yeah. Yeah. I love that commercial where, you know, the father's got the kid in the back and he's driving and he's swearing and he's road raging.
Yes.
And the little kid's in the back and he's mimicking it. That is so beautiful, so true. You know, if they see us growing up and go, Dad's exercising, so that's what a dad does. You know, it's like brushing your teeth. That's what dads do. Then they go, well, okay, I'm going to do that too. If Dad just sits on the couch drinking beer and eating chips, well, that's what grown-up men do.
That's what that beer ad was as well.
Yeah.
The kid getting the beer out of the fridge for the dad, and that's just in turn to the next generation after that.
Yeah, if men are horrible to women, that's the way I'm going to be growing up. And we don't accept that shit anymore. We should never have accepted it, but we simply just don't allow that to happen. So we've got to show kids that part of being an adult is that you brush your teeth, you get out there and exercise, you mow the lawn, you do all these responsible things, and you treat people with respect. Men, women, black, white, green, purple, whatever it is. You treat everyone with respect, and it's not that hard, mate. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be a genius to be able to behave well and to look after yourself.
It's not but flicking that selfish switch, which we're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you find that the most challenging part when you're talking to young parents, women in particular?
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard because they want, and the pressure on women is phenomenal, I reckon. I did a talk once in a primary school. I've never forgotten this. Does my head in now. And we were I was talking about nutrition and exercise and blah, blah, blah. And away we go. And this, after the talk, this gorgeous little kid, grade 3, I think she was, she comes up to me and goes, Mr. Verbi, that was really great. But my boyfriend says I'm fat. What sort of diet should I go on?
Tell your boyfriend to go get fucked for starters. You
Pretty
probably can't
much
say that.
What I was thinking. But after I picked myself up off the floor, I went,
Oh, God.
oh, my God. Oh, my God. A grade 3 girl is under that much pressure for...
A grade 3 girl has a boyfriend.
Well, yeah,
Let's go back to that one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having him killed
Yes,
wherever he is.
absolutely.
We're having him kidnapped and sent away. But the thing is, she accepted that. She accepted somebody else's decision on her body
And judgment.
and instantly started looking for a diet. And all I could see was, this is a disaster and it's horrendous. But it shows, because most boys couldn't give a rat's what their body shape was. But from a very early age, girls are getting that message. You've got to be this shape, that shape, or whatever it is. So the pressure on women is phenomenal. Then you go to Instagram, and girls just had a baby, and she's 14 seconds later grating cheese on her abs and doing backflips, which is just crap, absolute rubbish. So the pressure on them is phenomenal. So I get a lot of that. I get a lot of women who are dissatisfied with their bodies and desperately hard to go hard. And it's interesting, even knowledge-wise, women that I see tend to know more than blokes do. And I see it in families. I go, a woman will come in and say, okay, I want to change my body shape, so I'm going to change my eating plan. I'm going whatever I'm going. And the rest of the family goes, yeah, that's great. Good on you. We're supporting you, but we're not changing. We're still eating whatever we're eating. But when the bloke comes in and says,
this is what we're doing.
I'm changing my body shape, we're eating nothing but mung beans, the whole family changes. They're all eating mung beans. So I look at that and I go, why is that? How is that happening? And it's weird. It is absolutely weird, but it's really common. It's really common. Women's knowledge is better, and they're trying to make the whole family healthy, and the bloke's ignoring it all until he gets a fright and goes, oh, that's it, we're all going paleo. Okay.
And going the other extreme.
Yeah, until I get to where he wants to be, and then they all fall apart. And again, I see too much of that extremism. We're going to go hard until we get that result. Nobody ever says, this is the way I'm going to eat for the next 100 years. This is the way I'm going to train for the next 100 years. I go, I'm doing an 8-week challenge.
Goes back to that results immediately.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with the 8-week challenge if you want to see what does the best version of me look like. I respect that. I think that's awesome. It's kind of cool to see what you're like, what the best version of you could look like. But I think you should also be looking at what's the sustainable version of this. I don't want to never have an ice cream again.
Ice creams are great.
Yeah.
M&M McFlurry's the best. maybe
Can
some
we get some
chocolate sauce.
sponsorship? Where's McFlurry when we need them?
No, that was my wife's calling card when she was pregnant the first time. Was McFlurry's every night. It's like, okay, if that's the worst you're going to have, knock cucumbers with whatever, I'm all for that.
Absolutely. So I just want to go. Often when I'm working with people one-on-one, I'll start from the Friday night splurge. What's the non-negotiable splurge for you? At my joint, it's a couple of beers and Orgello's pizza, which incidentally is costing me a fortune every Friday night. They make the best pizzas in Baldwin. And a couple of beers, feet up, watch the footy or the first half before I fall asleep, and that's a non-negotiable. So the rest of the time, what else is non-negotiable in terms of my exercise and my eating patterns and so forth? And people are more interested in what you can take away than they are about what you can put in. And I want to go the other way. I want to go, let's look at what we can put into your life that's going to bring you joy. That pizza and a couple of beers on Friday night is going to make you happy? Beauty. Let's keep that and work back from
on the rest.
that.
You can tell them to look to the Rock's Instagram page for his cheap meals on a Sunday. Get them to start looking at those. Have you seen those?
I've seen a few.
They're incredible.
Like
Pancakes, 15 skyed high.
How good is that? But the problem is he's 120 kilos of muscle, so he can eat that and break wind and it's disappeared. If you've got that level of muscle.
Well, we're not suggesting them going to go out and have 14 pancakes as a cheat meal. There's variations to it and limitations, but
totally, I'm hearing you. But I agree with you. If you've got that splurge to look forward to, it kind of enables you to say no, doesn't it? I can say no during the week because I know Friday night I'm going to have that splurge. And it's not that I can't have it, it's just that I'm not having it now. And if I choose to have it now, then that's okay too, but I can't have it Friday night. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get across to people is you're allowed to have that indulgence, but every indulgence comes with a price. And too many people are not prepared to pay the price. They're not prepared to, do the hard yards. They'll start, but they're not prepared to keep going. I always say to people, motivation's great, gets you started, but it's habit that keeps you going. And people are happy to start, but not create that habit.
You're finding, though, the right cultures, the right community helps with that consistency, continuation of holding all that.
Totally.
So I suppose if we're finding someone who's struggling with that, with their goals, not achieving, if we're looking at those extra aspects.
No, if you're spot on, you're just like we said earlier, I guess you never train as hard on your own, but as you do with a good group, and you never eat as well as you do when everyone else is. You're generally an average of the 5 people you hang around with the most, aren't you? So if you hang around with people that eat shit, guess what you're going to eat? If you hang around with people that eat clean, you're going to get it right. So yeah, the community that you choose to be a part of is really important. If they're drinking beers every night of the week, it's pretty much what you're going to be doing because it becomes a habit. I was testing this bloke in a mine once and he said, I have about 18 beers a night. He's a massive big unit. And my jaw dropped and I went, oh my God, are you serious? He goes, yeah.
I haven't had 18 beers in my life.
I'd be dead. And I looked at him and gone, and then he's sitting there and he goes, did you want to know what I have when I go back to my room?
No.
He has more when he goes back to his room because he worked at a place called Moomba. It was the middle of South Australia, a mine sort of thing, and they had a bar there. And so you could go when you get back from work, you go straight into the bar and you can drink. And the bar was there 24 hours a day because they had night shift. And anyway, and he could consume mountains of grog and then take a six-pack and walk back to his room and knock that over as well. So the guy was always drunk. He just could consume. And it was like, I remember him saying to me, so I'm talking about alcohol-free days, and he goes, well, how many beers constitutes an alcohol-free day? Okay, you're missing the point here.
Absolutely is.
It's just because, he didn't start drinking 18 beers a day. It snuck up on him. It became a habit. He'd been in that environment for years and years, and 2 becomes 4, becomes 6, becomes 10, becomes whatever. And he was able to drink mountains of alcohol because it snuck up on him. And for all of us, it's getting out of that habit. That's why dry Julys and things like that are gold, because they test people. Now, I'm not much of a drinker, but I tried a dry July once, nearly killed me, because I have a couple of beers on Friday night, and if I'm at a barbecue or whatever, I'll have a few, and I enjoy that, and I'm usually asleep after 2 anyway. But I thought, I don't drink much, so how hard's dry July going to be? But because I said I can't have a drink at all I thought about was
drinking.
Every time I drove past the pub, I'm going, oh, geez, I'd love a beer.
Doing that right now.
How good would that be? And then at the end of July, I had a couple of beers on that Friday night, fell asleep, and then didn't care about it anymore. I don't think I had a drink for the rest of that month because I was allowed to. We're creatures of habit, creatures of stupidity, but it always comes back to that self-assessment, saying, what sort of a dude am I? What's my approach? What works best for me? And just because it's working best for my best mate, or just because that diet's working for my best mate, does not mean it's appropriate for me. I did a program for, who was it? It was another gym in Richmond. They were training people for climbing Mount Everest. So they're pretty serious because your life depends on this. And they put them on a paleo-style diet. There was about 60 of them, I reckon. 60 people, and 57 of them just blossomed. Fat fell off them, muscle grew, but 3 or 4 of them pretty much went backwards. And one lady really struck me because she was a doctor, and she documented every morsel that went in her mouth and the way she went, and she was going backwards. And when we changed her to a higher carbohydrate eating plan, she blossomed. So it's about getting the approach that works for you. And that's not as easy as it sounds. There's a bit of, because your body's constantly changing. You know, if I think of myself, I'm no longer breastfeeding. That approach seems to have fallen off the radar for me. So I need a different approach as I age. And if you look at your dinner table, often families, whoever's doing the cooking, comes in and says, "Here's the one,
the one generic meal for everyone,"
and we're all eating the same. But we're all at different stages. Grandma's got different needs to little Johnny, who's only 6 months old, and Mary's, who's doing 7 fight fit classes a week or F45 classes a week. She needs different food from Nathan, who's riding a bike 100 k's a day. So we're all in different situations, and we try and give them all the same exercise. We try and give them all the same food, and that's dumb, and clearly not working.
So what's your structure of training at the week at the moment? So in a perfect world, post-COVID?
Well, yeah, I really enjoy doing resistance training, and I think, I'm 62 years old, and I think it's critical as you get older that you do resistance training. If you go to a nursing home, the people who have the best bone density and the best muscle mass live the longest. So for me, resistance training is like brushing your teeth. You should do that. So I endeavour to do that 3 to 4 times a week, either a HIIT training session or lift some heavy shit. But I love bike riding, so I get out there. It's great for my headspace, and I'm really bad at it, but I don't care because I love it. And I get to ride with friends and chase after them and have coffee at the end and talk shit. So I love that emotional, physical combination of bike riding. And I think bikes take you back to being a kid.
I was thinking about that the other day. That's exactly why we do it.
It's just
Escape.
It's escape. It's glorious to get on your bike and wear inappropriate clothing.
It's not inappropriate. I think there's
The way I wear it
mammal.
is.
No. There's one ride a year that you want to avoid, and that's the total. Yes, the total. Yes. I can't even spit it out. The Total Rush Christmas ride.
Yes.
Yeah, we've all dressed up once or twice. Some go to the next level. That's the only ride of the year where it isn't inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly,
the rest of the time, the lycra's okay.
Exactly. So I love my bike riding, but I love trying different stuff. I love boxing. Last year I had a crack at a boxing challenge, and every year I try to set myself a challenge to do something different. A few years back I did my first ever Ironman, and I think you should get outside your comfort zone once a year and do something, and to try, and you might discover something about you that you never knew you had. A colleague of mine, she's just magnificent. She runs a gym in Port Melbourne called 12 Rounds, and Tiff,
Danny Green,
Danny Green's franchise. Yeah, Tiff works. She owns one of those, and she trains there. And she did a program that sort of looked at her skill base, and it said, "We think you've got some artistic skills." And she went, "What are you talking about? I'm a boxer. I'm an athlete. I'm a gymnast. I'm everything, but I haven't got an artistic bone in my body." And she fobbed it off, but went home that night and thought, "I'm just going to do a bit of sketching." And 7 weeks from that night, she's now getting paid doing portraits of people. You want to see her stunning pictures, black and white chalk, you name it. She is stunning. She never knew she had that skill. So who knows what we're capable of? So why not get outside your comfort zone once a year and learn something about yourself? You might discover that you can sing. You might discover that you can ride bikes. You might discover, and what's the worst thing that can happen? You make a dick of yourself.
Or you really enjoy it and you continue it
really
on the flip side. Yeah.
Or you've shown that you've got the courage to try something new. So for me, I'm always looking to try different sort of training methods because I really enjoy that physicality part of that. And for me, really some testing. For me, I discovered that my body wants to train twice a day. I used to sneak out for that second workout during the day, and I'd get my sweaty, disgusting clothes and I'd wash them. My wife didn't know that I'd done it. And she'd go, "Did you do a second workout? What are you doing that for?" And I'd hang my head and go, "I don't know."
Shouldn't you be? You should be patting me on the back, not clapping
I
on the back of the head.
don't know why I did it. I just wanted to do it. And now I know that that's me. And some people need to do that. Some people need to train at night. Some people need to train in the mornings. Some people, the training isn't even enjoyable for them. They just need to tick the box of it. It's not the actual activity itself. Some it's yoga. It's about the mental, spiritual aspect of it. And no, we don't know any of this if we don't have a crack. And if you're doing the same shit every day, you might be missing some gold somewhere. And I don't want to miss the gold.
No.
Life's too short for that.
Absolutely. So who sets your weight programs, your resistance training programs? Is that you, or do you run by a few of your coaches?
Look, I tend to do it myself unless I've got a bit of a, if I want to hit a particular target or a particular goal, I'll go to people that I respect and go, "What do you reckon about this? I wouldn't mind trying to put on 3 kilos of muscle or trying to lose, this or that. What do you reckon?" And we'll throw around some ideas together and come up with a plan from that. And the beautiful thing about going to a zillion gyms is that I see some stunning professionals. And you can always steal an idea. I reckon I go to too many gyms where I don't pick something up, where you go, "Oh, wow, I haven't seen that before." And if you're not learning, something's wrong, because there's always someone coming through with an absolute cracker of an idea, and you go, "How did I not know that? How did I not see that before?" And you go, "Beauty, let's go." And there are so many good ones around.
So if you're not catching it, you're getting left behind from an athlete perspective.
I agree. Athletes know that in their soul. Really good business people know that in their soul. They just know, and it's never enough for athletes. It's never quite enough. That's good, and you see it when they whinge and moan about when they hit a plateau. Clients come to me and bitch and moan that they've hit a plateau, and I go, mate, that's fantastic. I go, what are you talking about? I haven't improved in 3 weeks. I go, well, yeah, but have a look where you were. And now what you've discovered is that you've discovered that this is the baseline. This is the new best you. So now we're going to have to create a whole new plan to get to the next peak. And you can leverage off that peak. And plateaus are usually a lot higher than the valley, aren't they? So you've improved to get to that plateau. You now know what you're capable of. This is a great opportunity. But instead of it, they come in with their sookie la-la face going, I haven't improved in 3 weeks. You're confusing me with someone who cares. It doesn't matter. I'm interested in where to from here, not about where you're at right now. Let's look at what the plan is for the future. And for me, I'm really fortunate that I'm not as competitive now at 60 odd. I just want to be healthy and in good nick. And unless I want to do a challenge, then I want to get myself in really good nick to hit that challenge. And then I just want to be healthy and enjoy life. And there's guns everywhere I look and go, okay, I'm going to do a few classes with them for a while, pick their brains, do a bit of that, and away you go.
So if you're looking at that three day a week structure, just going back to that, you've got the high intensity training, and then you've got your strength. Yeah. Max efforts, you're going max efforts, or you're going three rep max?
Mostly I'll do 5 sets of as heavy as I can manage. If I'm going for the heavy approach, I'll do 5 sets as heavy as I can manage. But these days, at the minute, I'm doing mostly HIIT training, so a circuit style training with a little bit of boxing in that because I've just really enjoyed the boxing side of it. But what I have discovered of late is yoga. Yoga is the bomb. Yoga is often I say to my clients, the thing that you're worst at is probably the thing that you need the most. And I've got the flexibility of a rock, the body of a brick. So I can lift heavy shit. I can do that.
I can't touch my knees.
I can go hard in the morning. I can do it again in the evening, but flexibility of a rock. And then I've discovered yoga, and it is the bomb. It is so good for your body. I had a shoulder joint problem for probably 6 or 7 years, but I just worked around it. I'm always going to have that thing. It's going to be annoying. Spent a fortune on physio, never really got it completely fixed, and went, you know what, it's just old age. Suck it up and live with it. Then I started doing these yoga classes. In 3 sessions, it fixed my shoulder. And I went, wow. What the hell?
I should have started this earlier.
When did this happen? What is going on? So it's all part of that constant learning, and it's just it completely hit a nerve for me. I went, this is really good for your soul as much as it is for your body. And I had tried it many times over the journey, and because I was really bad at it, and because I got sucked into the whole competitive component of it, like I'd go into a class and go, that dude over there, she can put her head on her knees, I should be able to do that. And because I couldn't, I'd get really pissed off. Or I'd go to do a class with my wife and my daughter. My daughter's a professional dancer. So you can imagine what she can do. And my wife's just evil, so she can do whatever she wants with her body. And I'd be sitting there going, okay, loser, failure, disaster. And it took me forever to realise it's not about competing with them. It's not about that. It's about you doing the best you can do. And when you start getting that mindset, you start to go, okay, I just feel better. I just feel good. And my range of movement is better, and I feel better. And it would rear its head when I least expected it to. You know, it might be in a ride, or it might be in a run, or it might be in a whatever. I go, wow, I'm just moving better. How weird is that? And it's completely down to yoga. So yoga is the bomb. It's really, I'd recommend especially to males, especially to anyone really. It's good for you, as good for your brain and your mind as it is for your body. Yeah.
And then the bike, loving the bike. I haven't been on the bike too much of late. I don't see too many photos. Oh, you could be on the bike if it's not on Strava. Have you heard the latest one? If it's not on Strava, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But the new one with Strava is if it's not on Strava, you probably haven't paid for it because Strava have just changed their settings. But are you riding a fair bit still?
Look, not as much. Look, I would get onto my bike probably 2 to 3 times a week. Not as much because I'm doing other stuff. I've discovered the yoga and I'm just training in other ways. But and because my mate that I ride with is not riding at the same time, so I've sort of gotten a bit lazy with that, going out my own. But I still love it just as much. It is something that takes you back to being a kid, frees you up. It's great for your fitness. It's just the best thing ever. And I've got a really good bike, which I got from the total rush, changed my life. I remember when I got my good bike, I went in there and I'd bought shit bikes before and they taught me into getting a really good bike. And once I got on it, you went, oh my God, how long has this been going on? It just makes it so enjoyable. And then you can't wait to get on it. So, yeah, not as much riding, but still riding. Not sure I'm getting any better either, just quietly.
I think it was about consistency, about the rides, wasn't it?
Yes,
touched on that earlier.
Consistent
with
touch
your
on
training.
consistency.
It's hard with riding because I'm not sure if you're the same. We do a really long ride, say 100 Ks. When us athletes here, we do it about 3.5 hours.
Yep.
Could be faster, but we're not that good. That's me in particular.
Yeah,
but then you get home and then you're sleeping for the next 3 hours recovering from that bike ride.
But it's a beautiful sleep. It is. There's nothing like that snooze on the couch after you've had a really good workout and allowing your body to recover. And a really big workout like that, you don't have any choice. It forces you to lie down and recover and have a really deep, good quality, recuperative quality sleep. Because too often people aren't getting themselves physically exhausted enough to get that deep quality sleep. What they're doing is they're falling into a poor quality sleep and waking up every hour or 2 hours worrying about all the problems of their working life and their family life, their financial life, their community, whatever it is, and then they wake up the next morning stuffed because they haven't had a deep quality sleep. I defy anybody who goes for a big quality workout like that, does a big ride, not to have a deep recuperative sleep and wake up the next morning feeling revitalised. You've got that muscle soreness, that DOMS, and that's great. But you're brighter, you're emotionally better, your world's better. So I love that big workout, that big ride. It just changes your physiology. It's the bomb.
What's the challenge for this year? Is it getting back onto the boxing, getting in a boxing fight, or is it you slightly changed now COVID's hit?
No, I still want to do it because I was all set to do it at the end of last year, and my opponent got injured, and I still haven't ticked that box, if you like. I want to do an actual full-on fight where you get in the ring and there's no one but you and your opponent. And
why do you want to get in a fist fight with someone who's going to punch your face in? Well, if we go to the most violent end.
Yeah. Well,
I've spoken to cage fighters about this.
The objective, well, hopefully I'll avoid that and maybe punch him in the face first. But it's that getting outside your comfort zone. When you've got in that ring, there's what it's like when you're doing your jiu-jitsu and you're in that there with an opponent. There is no one but you two.
Yeah, that's it.
And you're left to your own resources. You've got to find something within you to get to where you want to be. And that's what getting in the ring is all about for me. I want to draw something out of it. I want to see what I'm capable of. And yeah, I might be too old for this in many people's eyes, but I just don't want to stop. I'm not stopping till the end. I'm going to keep challenging myself. And I reckon what's the worst thing you can do is I can get dropped on my bum and wake up with a bit of a headache, and then that's all right. I've had a crack.
You have no regrets after that.
Yeah.
You can choose the next challenge after that. Go for a second fight, maybe.
Having said that, I'll tell
Go
you.
into the cage.
Yeah, funny story.
Mrs. Verbi loved that.
No, she's not big on that. She's not that keen on my challenges. But I got into my first fight, well, not fight, but sparring session with a young bloke, and I went, "Oh my God,
Can you just go easy on me?"
Well, I could tell that he sort of was. He's jumped in, and he's just this godlike figure, much like yourself. And this old fart jumps in with a grey beard, and I've gone, "Oh, geez, this isn't good." And I'm shitting myself, and away we go. And he had this bit of a gap up, and I went whack, and got through his guard and just hit him a pearler.
And then you've got, okay, let's stop.
Well, my initial response surprised me, the judge, my coaches. I just apologised. I said, "Oh, sorry, mate." And my coach has gone, "Don't fucking apologise. Hit him again." And the beautiful boy that he was, I could tell he was probably just being kind to the old bloke. But that woke him up, and he then continued to pulverise me for the next 10 minutes.
Oh, no.
But we both survived. But it's fun. It's just, it's so much more cerebral than you think it is.
It definitely is.
You're really thinking all the time. You're just concentrating, and your adrenaline goes through the roof. It's a buzz.
That's what I found. I think we had this chat late last year when I found out about your boxing, and I spoke about my jiu-jitsu that I just started a year before that. Yeah. The beautiful thing about the jiu-jitsu is we can go as hard as we like. We're not going to get punched in the face, elbowed, kicked, so there's no physical damage. There's no real impact.
Yeah, but
so
you think your brain is
constant.
Massive overdrive.
It is, which is great, except for when you're a white belt and you're still thinking of the move as you're doing the move before you're doing the move. Or right before COVID, I'm doing a knee cut, which is passing through someone's guard and they're on their back. I got to the knee, I've gone, hang on, I remember being here in a drill. What do I do next? And going, he's already swept me after that point. I'm on my back. What do I do from here? There's some things that work really well, but it's a mind game. It's really, really challenging. It's really hard. You've got that community spirit in the gym, again, as I spoke about before, but it's so hard, so difficult.
That was one of the
a lot of fun
things I loved about the Fight Fit Challenge was you got 50 people, all from the community, men, women, old, young, well, mostly young and me, and and we're in this together, and we're all busting our gut to get into it because you've got to get in a really good nick to get in the ring to go flat out for 3-minute rounds. You've got to get yourself pretty fit, and so everyone's helping each other, supporting each other. It's just a great place to be.
It's very different, isn't it?
Oh, gee,
very different environment than martial arts.
Yeah. It is because there's that mutual respect for each other. And you go, I know how hard you're working and I respect that. And, hats off to you, mate. That's a great effort. And man, woman or child, it's awesome. And
is there shit talk in the sparring, or is it full on? Because jiu-jitsu we can do the shit talking in between, or even celebrate a good move.
Not as much, because every now and then there'll be a cheeky comment or something like that, but not as much, because we're all beginners as well. So, well, no, there's a few that have done it before, but so you're sort of not as much, because you can be on your bum pretty quick. And it can look really bad if you just make a cheeky comment. All of a sudden you're on your bum going, whoopsie. I got dropped by this young girl. She hit me with this magnificent hit. And do you reckon I copped some shit over that?
You would have, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely copped that. So, but it was I still remember it to this day. It was one of the best right hooks. I remember seeing it coming and and my brain was working in slow motion saying, you need to get your face out of the way here, John. Okay.
Too late.
Too late.
It is a wonderful sport.
Yeah.
All the martial arts. It's all about skill. So you've got someone who's highly skilled, they will knock you out, they'll choke you out much faster than you think. There's nothing you could do about it, which is the worst thing in the world.
It happens so quickly.
The smaller athletes can beat the bigger ones.
Oh, totally.
And then somebody start freaking out going, I'm not safe.
And, I look at that now and I look at some of the people that come into the gym and in street clothes, they look pretty ordinary. And when they get their gear off and then you see the skill level I've got, and you go, oh, mate, if you were in a pub and somebody saw you, they would go pretty nondescript.
I could take him. I could knock
take
him out.
him. Yeah, he would tap dance on your head before you could even think about it. So, I look at people that go to pubs and want to start fights and stuff and go, mate,
You have no idea who's out there.
you are just crazy. You don't know how many guns are out there. Well, you might not know that either. How many amazing athletes are out there that will just smash you to pieces. So, yeah, but it's all about getting the mix right with martial arts. It's about getting your mind right. It's about getting your body right. It's about really working hard. There's no half measures with that. It's
I was saying before about 50-50 on the homeschooling. It's more for that for the martial arts. If you're not all in and you're going for a fight, you're going to get found out very quickly.
Really quick. There's nowhere to hide. So you've got to get your head right before you get anything else right. And again, it's that same old model of stop, take stock. Where am I at? Where do I want to be? What's the plan? How do I get there? Who do I need to support me? And how fair dinkum am I to reach that goal?
Especially if you're doing a boxing fight.
Oh, absolutely. There's 2 fights at my place. There's the one in the ring, and then there's the telling my wife that this is what I'm going to do. She goes, oh, please tell me you're not.
I recall a Facebook post that went up. I'm pretty sure at the time Mrs. Verbi didn't know about this post or the fight.
Sometimes.
And I asked the question, does Mrs. Verbi know? And I got a reply from Mrs. Verbi going, no, and she doesn't. She doesn't like it at all.
That I learnt a long time ago, it's easier to beg for forgiveness than for permission. So that's my theory. I can't say it's been that successful over the journey, but it is my theory.
It does work, though. It does work. A question, did you watch the Lance Armstrong 30 for 30 documentary at all? I was on recently on ESPN.
I haven't. And
something you're interested in watching, or is it that drugs in sport you want to keep adrift from?
For me, it was more because I'm still seriously angry at him. He was one of my absolute heroes. I just adored him, had all his books, had the yellow wristband. I admired him. When people would say, he's on drugs or blah, 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 I'd defend him to the death. And so I was devastated. And I was, I think in many ways naive about my sporting heroes. I want them to be that beautiful person that we see up on the billboard, and I was so devastated. So, and every time I saw him interviewed, I was devastated. And I read a couple of books from people that had dealt with him, and I saw the real calibre of that person. So, when I look at that, there's nothing for me in that documentary that's going to change my new view of him as being a villain. He is as toxic and as shallow and as horrible as you can be, and I'm still cross at him for that. And his argument is that everyone else is horrible. Well, that doesn't cut it for me.
The whole peloton was on it.
Well, maybe they were.
Which makes it very hard. He was just the best at getting away with it.
Yeah, maybe they were, but that doesn't make it right. And I don't want to hear anything that he's got to say. I don't want to hear his justifications, and it taints everything that he says for me. So, and it's a bit like that with the Michael Jordan.
That was interesting. Did you watch that?
I watched a big chunk of it, but I found myself getting angry, going, "You're not the nicest person on the planet." There's
winning at all costs versus the community culture that we were talking about today. It's very, very different.
That's not what sport is for me. Sport is we're all in this together. We're all dragging each other along. We're all celebrating our successes together, and we're trying to get to a better place as a group. And winning, if I have to cheat, or winning if I have to be a prick, isn't good enough for me. I don't want to win like that. I don't want to be part of that, and I don't have respect for people like that. So when I watched Michael's thing, I went, "You're not as nice as I thought you were." there's something not quite kosher about you, and you're successful and good on you, but yeah. So it sort of drifted away from it a bit. So maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm not that killer instinct that I should have, but he's disappointed me a little. Nowhere near as much as Lance Armstrong, who
just ripped everyone's heart out.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
Because he was the reason why I got on the bike. I loved bikes as a kid, but he was the reason why you jump on.
Yeah, you go.
You buy all the Trek stuff, buy all his yellow,
Yeah,
Live Strong stuff.
And the story of the recovering from cancer and winning the tour and doing all this stuff for cancer patients and I suppose you could argue that he was able to do those things because he cheated, got away with it, and created the great story and certainly did plenty of good things for good people, but he was still a cheating lion, SOB.
Was, unfortunately for us.
Yeah. And we're seeing he was certainly not the Lone Ranger. Have a look at the Russian athletic team. Like, really? Yeah. What's going on with that?
How do you deal with that, knowing that they can't compete at any sporting, well, they can in the UFC, that's different. But if we're looking at the Olympic level, they can't compete under the Russian banner. They've got to compete under I want to say white flag banner.
Yeah.
But some are still allowed to compete if they didn't.
Well, they've got to be able to prove
they weren't part of the
they
state.
weren't part of it. Good luck with that for a start.
You can't.
You just how do you do that? But say they did, say they found someone. Well, it's going to take a long time to gain the world's trust. I remember listening to David Parkin, the coach of Carlton Footy Club, once, and he said, once trust is gone, you need to leave that organisation. And I reckon that's about right, because you're never quite right. Once you've lost trust in that, and I can't possibly trust the Russian athlete. You can't believe a word they say. Or,
no.
Can't trust Lance Armstrong, whatever he says. I'm not going to believe anything he says. He's just covering his ass. Once trust is gone, there is no coming back, in my humble opinion.
I think most would agree on that.
Yeah. And they're not the people that we want our kids to aspire to. They're not the dude that your kid watches and go, oh, I want to be like that. I want to be like Freeman, the just wonderful athlete. She's like gold. She's the one I want my kid to aspire to, not Lance.
Not these types.
Dirtbag. That's a shocker. No, can't do that.
So do you get your head around the likes of a Lance Armstrong, Marion Jones, who are taking performance-enhancing drugs, and then someone like a Usain Bolt comes through, breaks all the previous world records done by dopers, the 4 or 5 other Jamaicans get tested positive that weren't anywhere near Bolt. How do you trust? I find it hard to trust any athletes at that level in any sport.
You don't. I don't think you can. I look at it and go, yeah, it's good. I hope he's clean. But if someone came up tomorrow and said, Usain Bolt took drugs, would you be shocked and stunned? Not the slightest.
There's the aspect of he was breaking world junior records at 15. And you go, maybe
Yeah, he's been doing it
it
forever.
was all right. Or maybe he's been taking drugs forever.
Possibly. So
It's very, very hard. You
the
want
fact
to,
that-
like you said, but
the fact that so many, like I think Lance was, he's
Extreme.
the one that's done it for me. So from then on, you're never 100% certain. You're never 100% sure, and you go, I hope that's the case. But look back in history, they've been doing it for a very long time. They've been cheating for a very long time. But there's also been amazing people that have been beating the cheats for a very long time because of, look at Zatopek. He was doing like 100, 400 sprints in his training. Nobody thought that was even possible. He showed the world that this is, mate, you think you train hard? Have a look at this. And he was exploring every known possibility. I read somewhere that he was in the bath. He'd put all the wet clothes in the bath and he'd run on the spot in the bath until all the water was drained out of all his clothes. This dude was trying every possible weird thing. If it meant doing 100 400s with, I think he had I think it was 150 metres recovery, then he'd do another 400, sorry, and he did 100 of those. So there are the freaks out there, the Bannisters and all these guys that are, you guys can cheat. I'm not going to cheat. I'm just going to explore every extreme, possibility and find a way to beat you guys. And they're the guys I look at and go, wow, that inspires the heck out of me. You're weird, you're crazy, you've got a pain tolerance that none of us can deal with, but God bless your cotton socks, because you're just refusing to let those obstacles get in the way. I'm going to find a way under it, over it, round it. And that's the cool thing about gun athletes, is that they find a way. I know there's an obstacle, but I'm going to find a way past this stuff. I'm not accepting that there's an obstacle. I'm just going to keep going until I find a way. And that's the dude that I want my kids to aspire to be. The resilient guy that goes, yeah, okay, there's obstacles, but I'm going to find a way. We're going to get past this thing. And invariably, mankind has been able to do that. There's plenty of examples where there's been this unbelievable obstacle. The 4-minute miles, classic. Nobody thought
that could be done.
There's a guy, Ross Edgley, who's just 2018, I think it was. He swam around England and did a lap of England, as you do. 157 days of swimming, and he got, and he kept going until he got round. And swimming in lanes where there's ships going past, there's all sorts of crazy shit going on.
No thanks.
And he went off to a number of universities and got tested, and the scientist said, mate, you can't do this. You haven't got the body for it. You're not an elite swimmer. You're a little mesomorph, muscular guy. Your legs are too big and heavy, and your head's too big. It's going to sink, and you've never done any competitive swimming. And he's just gone, well, just fucking watch me.
I was going to say that's the biggest watch me I've ever heard.
And away he went, and he trained, which was really interesting. He did a lot of resistance training to make his body resilient to cope with the swimming. So most people would have gone...
And all the elements that go along with the beach swimming.
Yeah, because he said, you swim in a pool, it's all about technique. Beautiful, form, lovely, great. You swim in 10-foot waves, there's no technique, mate. You've got to find a way to get the job done. So he said, I bulletproofed all my joints by lifting big, heavy weights. I was strong as fuck. So when I got hammered by that wave, I could keep going again and again and again. He is an amazing human being.
That's incredible to do that.
But people said it couldn't be done. You can't do it, mate. It's freezing cold and it's just not going to happen. And you're swimming through the top part of England where it's where all the jellyfish come through, and it's kind of this funnel of these killer jellyfish go through it. And he said, no, I can do this. And he got in there and went through this section where there was all these jellyfish and was getting stung like 20 times an 8-hour swimming shift. Incredibly painful. So he sat in the boat and they said, what can we do? So one of the guys on the boat said, well, we need to find a way to cover your face, but you can still breathe. And so somebody said, well, why don't we get one of those GIMP masks, from the sex shops? And they said...
That's different.
That's different, but it will cover your face. You can get the goggles on. You've got that open airway that's got clips and things, whatever it's got on it, so you can still breathe. And all of a sudden he was able to then swim in amongst all the jellyfish and not get stung. And it was a classic example of how an athlete goes, there's an obstacle. It's stopping me from doing what I want to do. How do I get around it? Not accepting it and going, oh, well, I just can't swim. I'm not going to do it. He's gone, no, fuck it. I'm going to find a way. And it means I have to wear a silly GIMP mask when I go swimming.
I'll do it.
I'm doing it. And there's not a lot of people here to see me.
God, just don't take photos in those 8 hours.
Exactly. So, obstacles are there and they're always going to be there. Our job is to find a way. Our job is to help our clients find a way to get past that obstacle. Instead of what I see a lot of is the yeah but response. Oh yeah, I want blah blah blah, but I've got a gammy leg, or I've got this, or I don't have time. If I have one more client tell me they don't have time, I'm just going to scream, because that's bullshit. That's absolute. The most pathetic excuse of all time is I don't have time. You absolutely have time.
There's plenty of time through the day.
Yeah, what you've got.
You're just choosing not to.
Yeah, you're choosing
you don't
not
want
to.
the goal enough.
Or your priorities, it's not high enough on your priorities. So don't. If I said to you, you're going to die, you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to die, or I've got a gun at your head, I'm going to shoot you, you'd find that time, because your motivation is suddenly very, very different. So I don't accept the time thing, because you can get a great result with just 10 minutes. You can go in the corner and just hammer your body. Tell me, if you do 10 minutes of burpees, you're not going to improve your fitness.
Pretty skyrocketed after 10 minutes of burpees.
Absolutely.
That's an incredible amount of effort going through
You're really stuffed, and you've hit pretty much every muscle group in your body. You've worked aerobically, anaerobically. You're gaining strength. You're improving your flexibility. You're hitting your entire body, and you need zero equipment, bugger all space. So yeah, mate, we can do this if we want to. In fact, you look at soldiers, in Iraq, they're finding little corners and they're lifting rocks. They're finding ways to do resistance training. And that was one of the things I found interesting in Ross Edgley's book, was he's swimming around England, but he would swim with the tides, which meant he had to swim for 6 hours straight, continuously, because he's going with it. He'd jump out and you would think he would just recover, but he would get out of that and he would still do an hour to 2 hours of resistance training to strengthen his body, to make sure it stayed resilient, and to help recover from the swim. Because he said you just use the same muscles and the same movement the whole time, all of a sudden everything drops away. He said it got to a stage where his legs were like bloody jelly, because he was never standing on them. So he had to do an hour of squats and leg raises and things on the boat to strengthen his legs, because his muscles were just going disappearing. So it's all about finding out what are the obstacles, not accepting it, coming up with a plan, trialling the plan, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then constantly refining and refining and refining. And before you know it, hey presto, we're where we want to be. Yeah.
Sounds like the way to go.
It is the way to go.
I mean, that was 2 hours. Flew by.
No way.
That was 2 hours. Incredible. That was a whole lot of fun.
It was a whole lot of fun for us. We probably bored 2,000 people to death.
I don't give a shit. I learned some things. It was good. I'm sure they did too.
Oh dear, mate,
So
that was awesome.
How do people find you?
Look, they can go just My Body Analysis is probably the easiest place to find me. If they go to the mybodyanalysis.com.au, they'll dig me up, and they're interested in a test, or they're looking at a corporate program or anything like that, or they just want to chat, throw around some ideas, don't hesitate to give me a ring or a text or an email. And Instagram, good old famous Instagram. God.
Good funny videos and memes like that one you have there.
You realise I have the worst Instagram site of all time. I keep telling people when I take photos of them, I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to put you on my Instagram page, and I've got 3 people who follow me, Mum and the cat.
Well, let's hope that's changing. I'm sure it will. Thanks very much for your time today, John.
Absolute pleasure.
Good luck getting back into the ring.
Absolutely.
And we'll be on the bike very shortly.
Awesome, mate.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Been fun.
Awesome. Cheers. Did we really go 2 hours? Yeah. Fucking duck. Fucking duck. Listen, oh my God. I've made a complete mess of it. I don't know that much.